meeting to order, because my astute colleague over there has other obligations that he has to go to shortly that are important for this committee.
Has Mr. McDonald's? No.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
He is,
Oh, is he? Is he gonna be okay? Is it the flu?
He had a couple bad days, that's all.
Flu?
No, something else.
Oh, okay, all right, that's fine. Well, I don't think we're gonna have that much work tonight, other than, we're going to, well, let me call the meeting to order, which I am, and, do you wanna take it, and who would like to take the clerk's notes? Kelly's taking the most of them. I mean, if you just wanna, we'll just do a roll call.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bonnie Patulli, Dave Trudell, Donna Braun, Sam Gray, Tom Worthy, and, what's that guy's name? Oh, Frank Heath.
Hi, congratulations on remembering all our names.
I know, isn't that wonderful? So, we don't have any, do we have any citizen participation? No, okay, we don't have any citizen.
Taking notes?
Yeah, she always does. The business that I had, on the agenda here is, has everyone had an opportunity to go through the budget? I thought Derek was gonna be here tonight, no?
I'm not sure if you.
I know he knew there was a plan.
Did you talk to him at all, Frank?
No, didn't know that he was needed.
No, he's officially the town manager, what the heck, why does he have to show up?
Tom,
Okay,
how about a little charity, it's a new
all
year.
right, okay, well, obviously, he did.
You're fitting in right perfectly, you know, you're gonna
It'll be all right. How about the audit? Did we have anybody have any questions or, going through the audit? We had an interesting meeting at those of us that attended the school. You were there, Sam, and Tom was there, and Frank was there. You two weren't there.
I'm on my way back.
Oh, okay.
It's still there.
It was really a very good presentation, as always. However, we got $1.7 million shortage.
And that's a problem? Is that just on the
Not
school?
if you open your checkbook, Dave.
No, is that just on the school side?
Yes.
Did that include Upper Cape?
No.
No,
It's a separate issue.
It's a separate issue.
and that's gonna be another chunk.
Yeah, $250,000
Yes,
probably.
yes, Mr. Teeth.
I was gonna say, our meeting is short tonight, the school committee at around 8:15
Yeah.
is gonna do about a half-hour synopsis of that budget, if anybody wants to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, if we can
So,
get over, yeah, we're gonna have a
middle
short,
school,
we're gonna have a short,
It's the shortened version, it's 7.5 hours shorter, but, at least it's like a movie trailer.
They're in the library?
No, they will be in the auditorium.
at the high school?
I thought,
Middle
Oh,
school.
the
I
middle
thought
school.
I
Middle
heard it
school
already.
auditorium is where they're going to
Okay,
Is it gonna
be. It
be,
should also be televised too, so.
Okay.
the Question's
Is it-
trying to get there quickly.
is it gonna be different from what we heard?
No.
no, it's
But for
just
those
gonna
who
be it's
were
gonna be
unable to make it, if they
brief.
want an idea before they go to next week's
And-
meeting of the 16th, where all the public.
And I
is
had
gonna
every
be.
intentions of making copies, and I'll make copies for you too, Bonnie and Dave, of the school, situation here. But it was a very, very enlightening and very, it was really a sad presentation is what it is, because what we've come down to, and, if we can't, I don't know what the fix is. I don't know where the money is.
I did speak briefly to Jeff, but I sat with Barry for an hour plus. And I would say that they feel themselves, over the past 5 years, that they've been taking the brunt of the cuts. And I'm not saying right or wrong, but they, that's their feeling, and their feeling is also that it's extremely hard for them to cut below where they are, so that they are sort of figuring that there's gonna be a battle in town meeting.
To say the least. I mean, the only issues that I personally had with the school budget is some of those adjustment counselors I thought were a little bit, you know. I couldn't get over there's more children in the Minot Forest School than there is in the Wareham High School, or the Wareham Middle School. And the Deacon School has more children.
And they probably have,
Hello, Marilyn.
they probably have way more than normal amounts of special needs.
We got an interesting
Individual.
factor that over 50% of the
30%
children
the budget.
they say over 50% of the children are on free or reduced lunches.
Yes,
And,
57 was the.
was it, was
57%?
57?
One of the schools,
Yep.
that was in the, I believe.
Yeah, I
that
think,
was-
I think
That was it.
the whole system was 50%.
Said, I remember
57
57.
in one of the
and-
schools.
Yeah, and the other's close.
Yeah,
But it's $6 or $7 million in the budget.
and to be honest with you, and I think that we can all speak for ourselves, I don't see any fat in the town side,
No,
in the regular town side. I'm not saying up the street away.
I'd like to hear the department presentation
Yes.
before I conclude that as a
Yeah.
fact, but I don't think there's at this point a heck of a lot.
Thank you.
To the school committee's point of view, they have taken the hits. Police department's expanded.
Yep.
I was gonna say that, but
I would, I'll go right out in front. The police department's expanded. They're the last department standing right now that's not on life support.
Yep.
And you can talk about the maintenance department. He lost 5 people, say 4 or 5 years ago, and they're trying to replace 1. The library is desperately looking for volunteers.
yeah.
How many departments do we have left that have expanded in the last 5 years?
No.
And if you,
Go ahead,
Sorry.
no, go ahead, no, I was gonna open this up for
Sorry.
general conversation,
excuse
go
me,
ahead.
I didn't mean to.
No, this, you know,
But if you look at the school committee's figures, they look
do you guys
at
wanna take a
the-
quick, get it, I'll make copies for you.
They look at the last 5 years and the amount year by year that been cut for the town versus the school committee. And, you know, with just a little bit of memory, you think where the town has had little or no reduction, and you remember, oh yeah, that's when the police department gets some big increases. So, you know, you're right on, David.
Well, the other half of that is, we have not significantly dealt with the capital improvement shortages that exist within town, whether it's on the school side or whether it's on the town side.
That's,
So, you know, not only is the school getting a double hit in trying to deal with personnel, class size, and the various issues, we face the same problems here on the town side. We're not really taking care of our basic infrastructure. I mean, the average homeowner would faced with taking a vacation and replacing his roof, he does or buying a car that's failing, he takes the very hard choices. We're not even talking about replacing the roof, it's just falling down around us, and
no, and there is no, that I see, no plan or blueprint for, hey, here's the way out, or at least making the best of what we've got. And I don't think anybody is talking seriously about it.
if I,
Go ahead.
from my point of view, the point that I made the last time I met with the Board of Selectmen was simply this. Till the Board of Selectmen become actively involved in the budget and give directions to the town administrator, we're not gonna see any direction at all. And they're going to have to become actively involved because, to your point, where? And, you know, we hold these meetings, we advise, but
And you can't keep kicking the can down the street because the can gets dented pretty well
Well,
after a while.
I think we're all, particularly the school department and us, and I truly believe well, I'm gonna say some of the board of selectmen are definitely on board that we have to get this situation under
And
control.
the town administrator, manager, whatever the title is.
He's on board.
He's on board.
And you know, I can't say enough for him showing up at that all-day school. And he just listened. He listened. He's not in defensive mode, he's not in reactive mode, he just sat there and listened. And I mean, this is a reflection of him too. He's the head of this town. And he wants to make things right, in my opinion. That's just my take on Derek. I think the town is very
agree.
fortunate to have him.
I would agree.
Go ahead, Mel.
And I was going to piggyback on that and channel a former member of the finance committee when I bring up, you're right, we can't kick the can much further down the road. And what we really need is a plan, vision, a way out, and it's not the same old thing. Times have changed, technology has changed. It's not our job here as this body, it's collectively as a town, we need to find a different way of just delivering these services.
It's more than a town, it's a region.
It's a regional, it's a
The
nation.
selectmen have got to meet with their peers in other towns, and, because they're facing the same issues.
Exactly, and if it means combining departments, if it means regionalization, I don't have answers, I'm just throwing these things out there, but it means looking at things very differently, because we're pretty much at the point that we really can't go on this way anymore.
We have to think out of the box.
The one thing that, well, two things impressed me that I came away with from the school committee meeting is that they've got a heck of a lot of buildings.
And no facility manager.
Yeah, well, and they've got the Hammond School, and they've got the Emerson or something
Yeah.
like that. I didn't even understand. They had to move from the Emerson to the Hammond, and they've got the West
West Wareham
Academy, and they've got,
16 children. Look at the budget for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
40 grand a student.
It is.
I mean,
I-
that'll get you into a decent college these days.
Yeah.
Almost. But
Maybe, yeah. Close.
I mean, I think they've got to start with a clean sheet of paper and sell those buildings, get rid of them, because they gotta maintain them, they got people going to them and everything else. They weren't willing to cut the school buses back to what the needs were. I mean, their status quo is important to them, and I don't think that's the way we can go anymore.
They're facing different status quo than we do. They have mandates, they have state mandates, they have
Exactly.
federal
Federal
mandates.
mandates.
And we have minimally fewer of those on the town side of government.
right.
We do in law enforcement, probably, we do have some in municipal maintenance, but overall, and certainly we do fiscally. But we don't have the same kind of liabilities that the educational side does.
The other side, picking up Tom's thing, yeah, is the present number of buildings the most efficient method of running it? No. If you were starting with a blank sheet of paper in front of you, you'd never have that many buildings. But if you close a building, what are you gonna do? Where are you gonna put the students? And you either gotta build a new building, or, you know, you gotta do something along that line.
And it's,
You can't just
no.
pitch a tent.
And just for your own information, they're talking about bringing the 5th grades out of the Minot and the Deacon school and putting them into the intermediate school.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
To your point about buildings, if you want to see how efficiently we manage municipal assets, you can take a look at the Tremont Nail office building, which is now so loaded with mold that that's not going to be, it'll be a major challenge for our community preservation people. The old town hall, our track record of maintaining the buildings that we have closed
is zero.
is pathetic.
You just gotta get rid
And,
of
and to
them
think that the school
income.
could close a building and have to do what we've done, is basically walk away from it. It's almost criminal, because you're basically throwing a building away. It's not
I'm
quite
suggesting
closing,
to
it's
sell
quite
them
throwing it
to
away.
turn them into something else.
But
But
nobody can heat them. I mean, these are
Well-
walruses.
do we know what the Hammond School situation is? Can we, is that our building to do with what the town wants to do with it? Or,
You know, Madam Chair,
Maybe-
there's a deed restriction on the Hammond, it has to be used for educational purposes.
That's right too,
is
yes.
misused,
Be used for educational purposes, there's a deed restriction.
or it goes back to,
I don't know what the or is, but there is a deed restriction.
That's correct.
Madam Chair, if I may also, as far as the buildings are concerned, you know, first off, we know there's a space problem in at least two of them, right? One of them is beyond the capacity of the building because it's using trailers, all right? And we had space that could be moved over into the school. There was a request to do basically a space, as they said, a space analysis. Money was never put up to do that. Also, though, if you look at some of the ones that we have, there's great expectations for those schools like the West Academy and et cetera over there. And the students that are in there, their needs are much different than what you have in the Deaconess and the Minot. And those are students that cannot necessarily be easily handled in the general population. All right? Their separation is because they require far more facility and instruction, assistance, aid, et cetera. All right, some of them, like the West Academy, it's a big budget, but it pays for itself.
Mhm.
So if you want to get rid of it, it's not going to really save us any
It's
money.
not gonna save you any
And it's
money.
gonna throw X number of children away. All right, so, you know, I don't see a situation where they have far too many buildings. Now, what about the Everett? Well, the Everett was in, the Hammond at one time was the preschool. Well, now all the preschools were moved over and is overcrowding the other schools. All right, the attempt was to turn the Hammond back to save some money. That was one of the attempts that they were doing for last year's budget, was to turn the Hammond back.
Mhm.
Only to discover that the Everett was falling apart. Now, the Everett's where the administrative offices are, because there's no room in the schools and there's no room in the town hall, et cetera, you know, really to hold all the offices that are needed for the educational department. So,
where is it?
Once the-
It's right
Yeah.
down Gibbs Ave,
right, Everett is
Right
across the
the
street.
next to right next to the congregational church, you know, the hall for the congregational church is right next to the little red schoolhouse, they used to call it.
When they found they could no longer use the Everett building for those administrative offices, they went back to the Hammond. However, they've already said they have additional space in the Hammond that they'd like to lease out or whatever to get some money to keep the
Mhm.
maintenance of that building up. And that building itself also has problems because, you know, it's got lead paint and all those kinds of things on it. There's lots of things that need to be dealt with. Now, one of the ways that might have helped us was when it came down to, what do we do about the building? Let's build a new school. We already rejected that. All right, so we have what we have, and we have to live with what we have. In the meantime, we're trying to cram 700 elementary school kids in each one.
725.
You know, that's the problem. And those buildings need repair.
It's a
We
blip in
don't have
the
the money
road.
for the repair. All right, the other big horse that's in here too is the new Common Core curriculum and the technology. The technology is 10 years old.
Yeah.
How many people in this room own technology that's 10 years old when it comes to computers, et cetera?
Don't answer that, Sam.
No, I don't, no, I don't.
Sam had, I hate to tell you, but his wife squealed. He bought a new litter over there the other day. All right, that part, and the Common Core is extremely, that's a huge shift.
Yeah. it
That
is.
is a huge shift. Those kids have to finish trigonometry by the end of the 11th year. That doesn't just affect the high school. That goes back to the junior high and back into the elementary levels.
Yeah,
We don't have enough science and math teachers. That's a
exactly.
fact of life, and we're not alone in that case.
No.
No,
So, and I'm not trying to defend, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
these
no,
are the
I-
things that are being thrown at them, that it's easy for us to sometimes, you know, to just blow it off and say, well, you know, it's not part of the physical thing. Why can't we have a class size of 30 kids? Well, it's pretty hard to have a class size of 30 kids when you've also got mainstream children. And, you know, when you have teaching situations where you're not allowed to segregate, you know, the learning skills of the children either. And that's a critical thing in today's environment. These are all impacting us. Meantime, there's very high expectations and not enough resources. And I think one of the most critical statements we heard the other day came out of the Deaconess school principal, where she said, you know, we're training all these people, and then when it comes time to put the program in place, we lay them off and they go to other towns and they love it. The towns love it. We're
Yeah.
training them all, and we never get to use them.
Exactly. She was absolutely
She was
right.
absolutely right.
She's a beautiful mind, that woman. She's,
Right.
We also
Runs a
have
tight
to
ship
hire
over there.
teachers to teach the
Yeah.
teachers.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'll tell you what, I was a person who graduated from teaching college. Would you like to know how many hours of college education I had in teaching a classroom? I had a half of a year, a semester. One class was all I received on how to teach. Then I went out for student teaching, so that was my second semester. I had 8 weeks, all right? I received a teaching license from the state of Connecticut for what basically amounted less than 100 hours worth of work in secondary education.
I'm just curious, I mean, it's like, you're saying the basis.
Yeah, but that was BC.
The core of it.
What I'm saying to you, it's like, if you go to a machine
I'm just
shop.
trying to understand this.
Daughter,
If you
that
go-
was a low
that's all right.
blow.
We'll take a step to understand it. If you go to a machine shop, you go to a vocational school, you learn how to use a lathe that does not qualify you to go to work for David's business, all right, and to make certain items on the tool and die process. You have to be trained, someone has to show you all the ins
That's
and
what I'm
outs.
trying to
Same
say.
thing in the
See,
classroom.
You're telling me that this curriculum, this mathematics and technology curriculum that's now being shoved down everybody's throat, the teachers are not prepared to teach this. So we are hiring consultants to teach the teachers how to teach this. Is that what you're telling me here?
We have training teachers, we haven't hired consultants.
No, but
That's what this says.
This says that here.
This
What?
says
Well,
consultants.
yeah.
Currently, we send people out to train, to bring it back to work.
To bring it back to work
bring it
with
back.
everything else, there are things going on within our own system. First off, when you change a curriculum like that for the whole 11 years or 12 years,
Mhm.
all right, you're changing the whole curriculum, the expectation for each teacher and what they have to cover changes. And then they have to know what needs to be covered, and then you have to evaluate whether or not they're capable of covering that. And remember, we're gonna know exactly how good they've been trained because we have the MCAS. MCAS will come back and tell
But I
us,
thought the
whether or
MCAS
not
was
they're
getting
on
thrown
track.
out the door.
MCAS doesn't get thrown out there.
Well,
whether-
I'm sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was Barry's presentation last year, was the reason that they were changing the curriculum is that they felt as though, or the state, or whoever decided on MCAS in the first place, had decided MCAS was not working, okay?
Because it didn't match the curriculum.
Because it didn't match the curriculum.
Exactly.
The curriculum's now being changed.
That's not saying
They've
that
been in a
MCAS is
multi-year
gonna be
process of
thrown
changing the
out.
curriculum.
It's just saying we weren't teaching what
But
had to
that's
be
not what he
taught.
said. Last year, he said that they were gonna go to a federal testing rather than MCAS.
But
That's
even
why
if they do that,
this-
even if you have to train people, you have to train the people for the new.
I
for the new
understand that.
test.
I'm just extraordinarily disappointed.
It's
Marilyn?
cool though, but are you disappointed in our school system or disappointed in the people who are putting out these regulations that say our system has to change?
Both,
It has no consistency.
both.
Okay.
Peter, go ahead, Marilyn.
I'm really happy that we're having this discussion about education, because obviously my own philosophy is the more attention that we spend to education on a town, it improves the town overall in other tangible and intangible ways. But the number that jumped out at me, and I don't like to read numbers that I haven't reviewed, but I'm seeing this number of payment to other districts. And I'm going to believe that's going to be a ramification of school choice, because the further downhill our system falls,
Exactly.
parents who can, or who have the savvy to do so, take their kids out of the Wareham system. And Wareham still has to pay for it, because we are responsible for educating our kids. We have a $382,000 increase for educating kids outside of our system, and that's only going up if we're not putting the money back into our own school.
It's what's called, and I heard the school department calling it this, the death spiral. And the reason why it is because the more you get into trouble financially, and the more you lay off teachers, the more the educational level goes down, the more the good students.
And these are the kids that are leaving are the good students who have motivated
And
parents.
Barry said that 80% of them who left were on the honor roll. They migrate to other places. It's the parents who care most about education who are moving them out. And this will continue at an accelerated pace.
That is the concern, and when I look at this number, that is just shocking, that we have an increase. That's not the budgeted amount, that's the increase. That is really scary.
Another point that was brought up by Ron DeVega, one of the school committee members, is understand the people who are moving these children are also the people who are the members of the PTA, the community, the volunteer workers, the people who do the bake sales, people who do all the fundraising for the schools, et cetera. So you're not only just losing the student, you're losing the active volunteer parent who's interested in education. That is the real death spiral.
The parents who care.
The parents who care the most, shall we say. I'm not saying that any parent doesn't care. I'm saying those who are the most active in volunteerism, all right, are those who are the ones
That are leading.
It's the parents who care most about education. I should have,
Yeah.
Yes.
I should have
Okay.
completed that.
And have the
phrase.
ability
Okay,
to do
good.
that.
Yeah,
That's-
Go ahead,
So
Bonnie.
your core who does things is constantly shrinking.
Bonnie?
I'm just curious, that you touched on the subject of 50% of the students being on free and reduced lunch. And I'm just curious if they discussed any, or the amount of reimbursement back from the state for these programs that we have to institute for all of these children who qualify.
Well, it's not what
It's not
you,
just free and reduced lunch, it's not just the meal, it's everything else that these children are entitled to because they qualify.
well, our school teachers today are being asked to educate our children, to become their social services, to be their psychologists, to help them with their family counseling. These children come in with problems from home and it affects them in school. I mean, we're asking a lot of our teachers. Our teachers are getting hit terribly. And we have to dig our heels in, and we've got to find a way. Because they're getting killed with federal and state mandates, and they're just not getting the support. And we go in, you go into town meeting, all the teachers are paid for. The teachers, no one takes more grief than the teachers, in my opinion.
I would agree.
What Bonnie was saying, though, is because we have this population.
Exactly.
There are other entitlements, and I know that was one of the reasons why, when it came to transportation, why it really wasn't feasible
Yeah.
to charge parents, because under a certain amount, you can't ask them to do that anyway, so they're entitled to, and I don't use entitlement in a bad way, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of other ramifications to that number.
But,
And I don't know what the
Bonnie
reimbursement-
is entirely right, but at the end of the day, frankly, that's life. That's
It is what it is.
that's the rules we're
Oh, yeah.
living with.
And
It
that's-
is what it is.
But when
And
the state
we've
does
gotta-
this, when they do these things, I mean, it's like extracurricular activities or fees for this or fees for that, 50% of those children have to pay, 50% don't. So who's making up the difference is what I'm asking. Is the state kicking back in? What is the Medicaid line on this? What is their percentage as the state actually gives back for every single one of those students they waive the fee for? The state gets to waive the fee, but the town gets to pay for it.
you're absolutely right.
Probably the same thing.
Bonnie, you're absolutely right. But at the end of the day, that's the rules we're playing with. And are they fair?
The state,
It doesn't really matter. Those are the rules we're playing
And
with.
they say-
And no, I don't think they're fair, but
Maybe not.
that's,
the state did it to the police department. I mean, they just took their benefits away, their Quinn bill. Just took them away. They didn't care.
To be honest, the state's no better shape than most of the towns are.
Oh, no, of course not.
They just keep lying about what's going on with healthcare and how the wonderful job they're doing. And if you look and you go to Washington and you see how much of the gross domestic product being consumed, there's not a single entity that's not staggering
No,
under
you're,
the rules of our society.
but David, you're right, except for one thing, and
go
that
ahead.
is,
I know you have to leave.
the state has a way out. Namely, they say,
It's going over the school.
we're not gonna pass anything down. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody to take off the hook.
Sam, sooner or later, okay, the brick wall does arrive
It's here now.
at your desk,
It's here.
okay?
And it's here.
And then at some point, even up in Boston, they have to wake up and say, oh, we may have to do an intervention.
I hope we don't have to wait for that day, because
Yes,
Touche.
excuse me, one second.
And finally, to
Go ahead.
address your point as well, one of the things that the school department keeps bringing up as well is over the last number of years, what's happened is the cost of healthcare, the healthcare benefits that are required to keep qualified teachers, and all the special education requirements and all the entire, those other requirements for transportation, all that. Those numbers keep going up. You ask them, where's the money coming from? All right, the question is, well, if you're level funding the budget like we did last year, the only place for it to come from is the classroom for the regular student.
Yep.
There's all kinds of charts on the internet from Massachusetts, there's a
Mhm.
couple websites I can give you, where they discuss that in a great deal as to what's happening in the regular classroom compared to what's happening for all the special requirements by the state. And the state's not gonna fund anything, they just keep cutting back and just leave the unfunded mandates in there. And it's up to the towns, and that's what's killing, yes, it is killing us. It's killing the education of the towns, it's killing public education, because it eventually reaches the point where they don't even go from town to town, they go to private schools. And the tuition, it follows them from town to town, that's what that other, source is. And I'll tell you what, the other problem we run into, is some of those parents, I'll explain this best, okay? If the state, for any reason, brings a family into the town of Wareham, the child is still entitled to go back to the schools that they were attending.
Guinea Vento.
This is a good place to bring, because of the programs we have, this is a good place to place those children.
Yep.
There's,
And, all they can, that's what the people who are responsible for that will do. They'll put the child in the best environment they can, and it's our problem to pay the bill.
we have,
So that's unfortunate.
And you did the same thing, huh?
we have 6 children in the system that the town is paying $676,000.
I heard that number, I couldn't believe it.
6 children.
See, Frank,
Say this again?
We have 6 children in our system that we're paying over $600,000. One child in particular was $276,000
what, we over $100,000 a kid.
to
Now,
educate.
what I don't understand is, if you do the math for the children that go to school, and you figure the number is, I wouldn't know what the number is, but say it's like 20, 15
I've
or
got
20,000.
I've got them broken down by
What-
schools in my notes too.
What gives the right for the town to pay that much for those children and not everyone else?
We're forced to.
We're the federal,
Not-
we're
that's
mandated, we're
That's
mandated.
not a choice we have.
I understand that, but
You know what?
what about the word fair?
That's
You
not,
understand?
not in the directory.
It's not in the directory either, right? Go ahead,
That's
David.
the phrase that I love. We're mandated. However, what would the state do if you said, I can't afford it, I'm not going to do it? I am a proponent of this because you pass down these unfunded mandates and you all feel good about the law that you passed, and we're dealing with the consequences. And whether it's on the municipal side or the school side, there's gotta be a point where you draw a line in the sand. Because if I were to look at various segments within the educational system, one segment is totally destructive to the bulk of the students. And as a result, a lot of money goes to this particular group. I'm not saying that it doesn't need to be covered, I'm not saying it doesn't have to be a need. But the suffering is taking care of the mass. If we look back at what public education is, it is the education for the masses, not for the individuals. So it's time to push back.
Thank you, David.
I just say be careful,
Exactly.
because if you do that, and if you do not meet mandates, you're gonna have the state taking over your school system. I don't think you want that, David.
Not
I
for
would do
property
a
values.
little research before I said I thought that would be a great idea.
If you're not meeting the mandates and they take it over, since they're the experts, you would expect to see everything come to a better education, better MCAS, because the state knows all.
Go
We're way
ahead.
off topic here, we can't solve those problems.
No.
Well,
We can't even solve the problems in front of us.
to me, the only way that I see that we as a town are gonna get out of this is to have the powers to be, including the selectmen, sit down and start thinking out of the box. And I totally agree that you have to start thinking about possibility of combining activities with other towns.
Mhm.
You have to start thinking about a lot of things that maybe you don't wanna do, but are a lot better than just continuing down the road we're going on. And I don't see any other way, certainly if we play the game by the rules that we're playing now, I don't see us getting out of this in any way, shape, or manner.
Well, the only thing that I would ask is that we all collectively work with our selectmen and with our school committee and try and do everything we can to make people aware, whatever it takes to maybe someone is gonna, one of the selectmen will have an answer that we can, we can meet with people or something up in the state. I don't know what the answer is, but we have to do something because we owe it to our children. And frankly, if our children, they're our number one resource.
Donna, I agree with you totally.
And we have to, we have to come up and do something. We just have to. You're a good businessman, Tom, Sam, Dominic, Dave. All of us here have the business experience. There's got to be a way to make things better.
I don't think it's gonna get better, Madam Chair, until we hit the brick wall.
I think we're there.
I do too.
I use an example. We have two dispatch systems here in town. One for the police department, one for the fire department.
The fire department's separate though.
My point. You just made my point to me. Thank you, Donna.
It's,
That's like the holy grail of this town, the fire
But we're still
department.
paying for both. It seems to make sense for the benefit of the citizens of the town if the two entities could work together, at least to save money on both sides.
But that type of solution, and that seems like it's
easy.
easy, and certainly low-lying fruit compared to the rest of it, is not gonna happen until we're sitting down with selectmen, finance committee,
No
town
argument.
administrator, school committee. We're
And-
all sitting down and trying to come up with some good solutions.
And your union stewards.
Pardon me?
And your union stewards.
That, I think, that eventually, David, yes. But first, we've gotta figure out where we're gonna try and go.
Exactly. Exactly. Does the board have any objection to me asking Mr. Slavin about the selectman's position on this? Well, you were the only, we're only two selectmen there. You and Peter came in later. Do the selectmen understand? I know you understand, but does the Board of Selectmen understand where we're at? Mr. Slavin, can you come up and comment for us? Does the board mind if I ask Mr. Slavin?
Absolutely.
Right ahead.
Please,
I
please
would
do.
ask.
Asking him something
If
if
he
he
takes
can't.
his coat off.
No, I'm not trying
Front
to.
seat, boss.
Did you come away with the same feeling that we did?
The feeling that I had was that the principals and the different administrators were, for the most part, pretty well defeated. I'm not sure how they function with their teachers, when they have to answer questions to the teachers, because they don't have answers. And there's no question the system is going in the wrong direction as far as parents, students. there is no easy solution. I'm not sure whether the curriculum has to change, the system has to change, but basically, you have a situation where it's not working. You have to have an administration has some tools to make it work. How does an administrator tell a teacher, you don't have this, you don't have that, but go ahead and do it anyways? I mean, I came away with the thought that it's a real problem.
Do the other selectmen understand?
Well, I think so. You have one selectman that actually takes her child and puts it in private school,
Yeah, I noticed, yeah.
you know, among other things. So, I mean, it's those that can't afford it or can make it work are doing that because they just don't have faith in the system.
How can you represent the town of Wareham, though, and not have faith in the system?
It's coming from.
That's an unfair comment.
No, I'm just saying.
It's a choice.
It's a choice you
And
can do.
you know something? I agree with that selectman, and that's what makes me feel so badly, because at least some people have the means to do that.
I think you'll find that what will have to happen at this point is that we made the comment at the meeting that basically all the key boards and all the stakeholders basically have to sit down and figure out how do we change the attitude of the town. The town has, you can't just throw money at something to fix it.
No.
The town, the school committee did make a calculated risk, gamble, whatever, that the override and the debt exclusions would pass, and therefore they cut their budget back and
Exactly.
came up with an unfunded number that wouldn't work for them. It was a risk, and the risk didn't pay off for them. Now they're in a situation where they're 2 years behind financially, they're trying to catch up. But you're gonna have to somehow get the pulse of the town to a point where they're willing to accept that this is an issue that has to be fixed. Right now, it's not there.
But the fix is to raise taxes, is that what you're,
That's not a fix, because that's not financially feasible.
okay.
What's financially feasible is to take the $1 revenue you have and break it up into pieces you have to and get basically the best bang for the dollar. You mentioned regionalization, you mentioned other things. These are hard things to get in only because you have different areas that have their own group of employees that don't want to merge.
Don't want change. They don't want change, they're afraid of change.
Well, change usually means your job changes and your job may not be there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There is discussion, there has been, David can explain as well as I, as much as almost 3.5 years ago about having a public safety complex and having a central, regional dispatch. We talked about having a dispatch service that would cover 3 or 4 towns besides Wareham all in one spot.
Exactly.
There's grant money, which some people like and don't like, but SERP and other agencies have grant money. The federal government has money for it. There's programs right now available to help put in place. These are all things that are gonna start coming up to the front again. So they're gonna happen. But again, I asked the chairman to start to schedule, no more than 6 weeks apart meetings with the FinCom and the school committee. It was voted on and agreed to, I think, not this meeting, but the meeting before. So there are some changes happening.
Dominic, you had
I did, just, this lady said, throwing money at a problem, like in business, sometimes is not the best.
Oh, no, absolutely, you're right.
You can throw all the money you want in the world, if it's broken, it can't be fixed, you need another solution. And I think that's, everyone in the town and a lot of people believe that just, money is the answer. And the way I look at the situation, the way it is right now, I don't believe that that's right. I know it'll help, but I don't believe that that's the answer.
It depends on what kind of money you're throwing at it, Dominic. If you go back to the house analogy, if you need to replace your windows because you're losing all your heat out the windows, does it really make sense to just pay for more oil when you really need to replace your windows? It's how you allocate that money. We have cut so much funding and so much out of that budget that there's a minimal amount of money that needs to go. Technology, how are we going to produce better students, better citizens if we can't educate them? We need to give them the tools, and we need money to buy those tools. That's where it comes from. You need some amount of money.
And, I would argue that, yes, you're right. More money is not the answer for all the problems. It certainly is not. But I think you need a minimum amount of money in order to get the
For
job
books.
done. And, Yeah, yes, I did hear in the town meeting a couple times ago where an ex-teacher stood up and said, I don't see any sense of having textbooks. You know, it's a waste of money, but I don't think that's a logical conclusion. I think you've gotta have books, I think you've gotta have a certain amount of technology in the school. And I think, you know, there are certain things that you've got to do. But I certainly don't think that you necessarily should go down that route without thinking through your overall
Without
plan.
the goal of where you're aiming to be.
Where,
because-
how you're gonna get there, et cetera. At the end of the day, you might say, all right, now I've got a good plan to go forward, but I need some money in order to accomplish it, fine. Then I say, okay, you should get them more money, but you've gotta have an overall plan in
Absolutely.
order to do it.
Absolutely. Well,
But you might need more money too. In fact, I'm pretty damn sure you will.
You don't ask for the money until you've convinced the people that you've got
And
a
until you-
very well-tuned system.
financial plan.
And you've
Well,
got,
and you're operating right now as
Yeah.
efficiently as you can operate right
Exactly.
now, and that's where I'm not
And-
convinced.
Thank
Not for
you.
the school, but I'm saying for the whole goddamn region.
And at the end of the
That's
day,
right.
sorry, I was
That's
just,
okay, what you just said is the amount of money that we're using right now, do you feel that it's being done properly? You know, is the money being, you know, is the system working right now with the
Being
amount
as
of money that
efficient
it
as we
has?
can, yeah.
Are we getting the best bang for our buck? So then you feel if you are and money will help, yes. If you don't feel everything is right with the amount of money we have, more money is not gonna help. That's how I feel about it.
good point, that's,
Bonnie's got something to say.
No, it's not that.
It's not,
I mean, I know I wasn't at this presentation.
I wasn't
and-
either,
And
so-
I'm sure it was brilliantly done. But I keep reading through this stuff and it really sounds like the same thing we were told last year. It's like somebody went to an inspirational programming and decided this was the way to fix our schools, okay? I mean, we go back to professional development and, you know, having coaches to coach the teachers, to coach the children, to increase student academic achievement, blah, 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 blah. It's like, it seems to be this is the way they're gonna fix education, and I just feel like, how did it get broken in the first place? What's been going on for the past 20 years that all of a sudden somebody's come up with a big plan on how to fix education?
go ahead.
I actually can respond to that one. What happened 20 years ago is things were like this, and everybody learned, they came out of teaching college, like Frank said, and they learned how to do it. Times changed, technology changed, students changed. The same kids that are in class now are not the same
Families
population that were there 10 years ago or
Families,
20
The
years ago.
singles and.
Over
And the
50%
teachers
of
that
them
were
are single
teaching-
parents.
You're teaching, what Frank was trying to say is when you're teaching in an isolated classroom. You're not teaching with coworkers around you. Maybe you meet them for 10 minutes at lunch if you have a chance to talk strategies, but you really don't have any overall. You're in this classroom and suddenly you have new kids and new technologies and new things thrown at you. So you actually do need training in those.
And
And
new
they found-
subjects.
And they're
I
good
understand
teachers.
that, but what would happen to the training over the last 20 years?
It wasn't being done.
Why wasn't it being done?
Because
That's
it
my
just-
point. Why wasn't
It
it
wasn't
being done?
because probably we didn't have MCAS, we wasn't seeing a need for it. So now what they see is you can track certain teachers and see that they get repeatedly better scores, better outcomes. It's really hard to define a better teacher. That I hate that whole using scores to define that, but there are teachers who are more effective. And now you can put
And we're
effective
losing them.
teachers to mentor
The younger ones.
other
We're losing them.
teachers to help them out. When you get a brand new teacher in who really hasn't had a lot of classroom
Mhm.
experience, you can give them a mentor. And we are pulling from within the system some of our better teachers who've been around and have learned and had the specialized training to do that, to teach other teachers. So, but what I was gonna say about the cheerleading, the optimism part is, I think we as a town, I think everyone on this board believes in, and I believe the Board of Selectmen do, but we as a town, I don't know that we really understand what's at stake with education. We are educating kids. We need to educate kids who can get jobs. That really has been lost in the communities. I know this because I have kids in this generation. I've watched them grow up and not understand what the stakes are. In our day, you went to school, you worked hard, you got a job. That's not happening anymore. The world has changed. They really need to work hard, and they need to work hard
In the
specific
right way.
tasks. There's a reason why you need to pass trigonometry in 11th grade. In our day, we would have laughed at that. Are you kidding me? But they need to do this stuff. And we need to believe that they need to do that. We need to tell the parents they need to do that. You need to get your kid to school with breakfast ready to learn. There's an obligation on all of us. We need to provide them with a place to go to learn. And we need to get everybody on board with that, or it's just going to get worse and worse.
You need to have a workforce available to businesses that's viable business. If you don't have a workforce, business isn't gonna locate here.
That's absolutely correct.
The value of homes and stuff, people won't move here because the educational system isn't there, people find a different place to go. The lower the educational value, the more crime you have, and just even, and you don't even have to just say it, it's all there in statistics and all shows.
So,
If you don't invest in education, it costs you a lot.
so as Dominic was saying, is, new programs, new ways of doing it. That,
You also have to understand that the school that all of us here went to as kids, doesn't exist anymore.
That's right.
They mainstream, you have to remember, they went and decided to mainstream everybody just because the state and federal government basically gave up a lot of programs and said, okay, we're gonna mainstream everybody. It's not a real problem, but it's a problem for an average teacher. The teachers now can't have one teacher in the classroom because of mainstreaming. They have to have 2 and 3 assistants, and depending class size and everything. It's all changed,
That is so wrong.
but that's what's changed. So
But you know,
if you
and
go-
that's why you have these pilot schools all over the place that take their children that do wanna learn and put them in an environment with other children who do wanna
I
learn.
understand.
Okay,
But-
so those kids that are in our schools that have to put up with behavior problems and situations that prevent them from learning, okay? I'm sorry, but I can remember having different levels of education when I was in school, and it helped everybody because peers could help other peers.
I'm just trying to say
Okay,
that you-
putting somebody next to someone who gets it and they don't get it only upsets that person more because they're not getting their education when they have to help that one.
You used to have basic, standard,
Yes,
honor, and then advanced placement. All I'm saying is you have kids in the school system today that have been mainstreamed in, and it changed everything. And that's gonna be there. You may not like it, but that's the system they're in now because there is no support for them anywhere else.
Yes,
well, how long is it gonna take to figure out that doesn't work and they change it again?
Sam,
Unless it's funny.
Look at the next David.
We gotta step back a little bit, because we were laughing about, or not laughing, we were addressing why you need trigonometry and, this 11th grade. And, if you look at some of the advertisements that have been on, et cetera, telling us what we already know, that the United States as a whole, among countries, is what, 25th?
fifth behind
25th in
Slovakia
science
and Slovenia.
and mathematics, and dropping fast.
yes,
And why? Because we're not teaching those courses. So people are saying, doggone it, you gotta teach them.
absolutely.
Now, is that wrong? No, that's right. But we're left in the position of trying to implement it, and that's the problem.
You're absolutely right. Go ahead, David.
Three points.
Well, you only get one at a time.
I'm going to give them to you one at a time, 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
In regards to science and technology, when I entered the workforce, the great
Depression was
The
a
great defense spending had started. Community colleges didn't exist. And then Kennedy decided that we needed to put a man on the moon by the end of the 60s. And mathematics, science were the courses to take.
Yep.
Because that's what industry was, whether it was on the defense side or whether it was on NASA or whether it was something supported by a university. They were looking for science and technology graduates because we had so little. They taught as a fact. We've cut our defense spending we've cut our NASA, we've cut our own government programs that support so many of those science and technology people, that now, what's the difference whether I get a master's in history or I concentrate in mathematics? I can probably get a job with a master's in history.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
No, you
I got
can't.
one of those.
Okay,
As a docent.
I,
Second item, every time I go home,
That road
I
55
pass
years ago.
I pass a home on
That's what my
my
master's is.
okay, okay, yeah, okay,
Sorry,
let's bring this
sorry.
back, cause I wanna wrap the school bit up.
I pass a home on my left every time I go home, and it is a home of last resort. These children are basically wards of the court, of the court system. People that are there running this are paid by the state. If those kids bowl it there, they're gonna end up with the local judge and the local sheriff being their mother and father. This is their last resort. I don't wanna see those children wasted and lost. And that, I have that vivid reminder every day when I go home, when they're out there playing basketball and they're coming home and they're walking home. I see them as individuals, and I see that we have a responsibility to them, because they don't have any more straws. They don't have any life preservers. This is it for them. This is their last stop. And it's critical that we salvage them. And last point. Last year I asked a question about technology in the school system. We have our techno geek there,
Matt Underhill.
who is laboring by himself without an assistant for X number of years. But my point was, does your technical people sit down with ours to see if there are synergies that can be developed? And a lot of nice words were said, but basically the answer was no. Well, so I have a lot of sympathy, but until somebody says to the selectman or the town administrator, we've gotta get our technical people in with your technical people and see if there are areas that we can make improvements. It goes back to our attitude of, do I wanna have one dispatcher or do I wanna have multiple dispatches?
I think in the technology end, I think they do help one another out, is what I was told, but I don't know. But I don't wanna labor the school situation much more, because we're not a school committee, but I just want to make sure that,
I think we're frustrated too, Doug.
yeah, no, I know everyone is, but we've got to, we have to enter into a partnership here with the selectmen, with the school committee, and we need, as residents of the town, we need to fight this with every ounce we can to make it better. And I know that all of us are on board with it, and I know we all are big education believers. And there's got to be ways that we can approach this, and that was basically my reason for throwing this out here tonight. Yes, anyone else on this before we end? Yes, Greg.
I would like to ask Mr. Slavin what his feelings are in getting together a group, and it can't be all the selectmen and all the finance committee and all the school board, because you're never gonna decide anything in that, but it does have to be a group who can sit down and start thinking a little bit out of the box and a little bit out of the road that we're journeying down now, as to some real long-range solutions for the town, long-range and short-term.
Well, we went ahead, and we got put on the agenda probably a little over a month ago. It was voted on that the town administrator would go ahead and pick up my program for focus groups. I had 4 different focus groups put together with people, not selected, actual people in industry in different areas. I think the first group was agricultural/developers. That group there was going to be made up of Mike Hogan from 80 Makepeace, John Deacons from Deacons Cranberries, Peter Beacon, and his brother. And they would basically sit down as a group and look at the town.
Formally invited.
David,
They would sit and look at the town, discuss things, and come back to the town and just give us a report of what they thought, where we could go. You know, and basically saying, here's the town today, here's what it needs to be doing, here's what's working, here's what's not working, here's what we think is gonna work in the future. People like Mike Hogan is on the Governor's Council for the state of Massachusetts on economic development. They all have, you know, a lot of ties. And there would be another group which would be actually commercial developers. There'd be a group of tourism and restaurants, and then the final group would be town employees. And they would all come back. There'd be nobody directing them overhead. They would sit down at their own pace and have their own meetings and discuss it and come back. So there'd be a bunch of like white paper reports given back to the town. And I thought this was probably one of the better ways to take advantage of a lot of people that are on the ground with experience to come back and look at it from a different perspective than 5 selectmen trying to make the town function every day, putting out fires. Because as selectmen, I don't think we have the ability time-wise, as the job is constituted, to be proactive enough. It's not a good answer, but I believe that's the situation. So the pieces in place, we got Fred Clark from Bridgewater State University, who's the VP of outreach and stuff, will be the facilitator for these focus groups. So I'm hoping sometime in the next few weeks, Derek will start getting that rolling. I don't know any other way to do it, you know, personally, so that was my suggestion, and they decided to go for it.
Dominic?
That's great, because Wareham, very agricultural, like you just said, those people are into that and see what the town needs to, you know, for the jobs for the kids. That's great, honestly. That's a tremendous idea.
That is.
Tremendous idea to get, you know, these people to come to us and say, this is you know, the direction we need to bring the kids to, because that's the fields that we have here in the town that we need. That's great.
Yeah.
We have a company called Smithers, which most people don't know about.
Oh, yeah,
It's
Springwood.
done by the Deacon's School,
Yeah,
done
yeah.
by the
Springwood.
Deacon's School. They employ 135 people.
Yeah,
Which again, nobody really knows, and they're a leader in their field. They keep very quiet. I got a hold of a couple of people from Land Trust that work there. They got me contacts with the, you know, it's a division based out of Ohio, and they've also basically come back and they'll be interested in working with us and things. So we're trying to reach out to different areas. Wareham has sewer, and if you're biotech ready certified by the state, you can attract biotech businesses. We've never made the effort to be biotech ready, and one of the main things you have to have is sewer. We already have that there, so that's the biggest
Yeah.
hurdle to overcome. So this is another area that we're looking at, but these things take time. It's not a good excuse, it just takes time to get everybody on board working on the same thing.
Yeah, I wish we had more time too.
Yeah, it's disappointing that we could have been doing this 3-4 years ago easily.
But we are where we
Yeah,
are.
we are, so you deal with it as it is. We had a meeting, we just had a meeting a little while ago with some key people in town talking about the parking kiosks and stuff. We've lost 2 years' worth of income.
That's right.
and we were on top of that, how long ago?
That's my big pet peeve, you know that.
So-
Yeah, Paulson too.
You know, I'm speaking
I agree.
prematurely, but I think we're gonna have something in place for onset before spring.
Oh, that's good, that's good
Because
to
there were
hear.
certain things agreed to, that they can spend money from one of the different groups, and the
Mhm.
money's been approved by the town ahead of time. So we'll slowly move along, and then they'll do a full town-wide parking plan,
Mhm.
and have a long-term project where they'll expand this project out all over town. Plymouth, basically, almost all of Plymouth is basically running these parking
Yeah,
kiosks
they
along
are.
the waterfront.
They are,
And it works well. And it is a good revenue generator, and it's
Big
really,
revenue.
it's not a regressive type of tax thing.
No, but it can be low dollars too,
It is low dollars.
and they take
But it adds up
debit, and they
to a
take
lot of
debit
money.
cards.
They take,
It's,
it's solar powered, and it takes debit cards, credit cards, whatever, it's real
and
simple.
they're everywhere you go outside.
There's no bodies to
Alright.
speak of, just someone has to go through, whether it's an outside firm or the police goes in, and
mm,
if you've expired or whatever, you get a ticket.
but to
But these
see,
are just things that have been sitting,
Right.
percolating, but now we're being forced to do things, whether we like it or not, I guess the best way to put it.
And to Sam and Tom's point over there, who said, you know, too bad we weren't doing it 3 or 4 years ago. I don't think 3 or 4 years ago people were ready for this. I think you have to get to this point of
Crisis.
nationally, statewide, we're all looking in desperation. I think we now are really hearing the message. Visionaries 3 or 4 years ago were saying we have to change things, but the rest of us didn't really see it. I think now we realize we really do have to, so I think this is a great idea, and sorry we're behind the 8 ball, but I think we might be ready to move. We had to sell it to the town,
$5.
that's all.
Yes, we do. Just like the phones. I'm gonna go, if you have a chance, I can send a note off to you. Larry needs to be reappointed to the audit committee. When we did that, it was a short term, because it's from January 1st to December 31st.
Okay,
So you can do it on the maybe 48-hour basis if you want. Since he's not here, you make him happy.
so Larry needs to be
Reappointed
appointed,
because
reappointed.
the time was up.
Okay.
Thanks for your participation.
Thank you, thank you.
Is there anything else you need?
No, barring anything more in the, I think we've buried the school. Derek was supposed to get us,
It's in your packets.
oh, thank you, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
I didn't see it. Who's coming which day?
Yes.
Yep.
So it's here.
Okay, thank you. Look forward to the meetings as we go in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
I know, but look at my fingers are purple.
Thank you.
By the way, Donna, thank you for answering me on the 17th and 18th. I thought it was the 17th or the 18th.
No, 17th and 18th.
I had the two dates, but not for
Okay,
Make
so-
sure your veterinarian doesn't use the one on horses, page 64.
If you look in your packet, we've got the 17th, we've got we got our big dogs coming in there.
So we have the 16th, 17th, and 18th all booked up.
What's the 16th?
16th is the meeting at night.
Yes,
Okay.
16, 17, 18.
Wednesday is at
The 16th is at night, though, right?
Have the select-
Hold on a second.
have the selectmen been invited to attend the 17 and 18?
Good, this is together, right?
No, this is ours, and you know, that's probably a good point, we should put it out and have them welcome, because why waste these people's
I
time?
thought that's what the deal.
That's what I thought
thought
too.
the deal was
To
that
be
both of
together,
us were
yeah.
there.
I thought they were gonna do one presentation.
I should have asked Alan, you know,
I can ask them.
would you, please, okay, that's good.
Because
Because
there's no
I
sense
was
in-
under the impression that it was joint.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had to check with the selectmen before these dates. And now I still see there are draft dates, or is this,
Thank you for coming.
Well, they may,
good?
this is pretty firm, but sometimes there may be a conflict, someone can't do it at that time and switch,
Oh,
but
so the
that's why it says
sequencing may be
draft.
different,
Right.
but the
right.
dates are the same. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know, I
You
don't
know,
have a calendar.
Monday is the
Um,
end of the
you might ask Frank
Mhm.
if capital planning was planning on attending.
I was under the impression it was, yes.
They come in before capital planning, and usually it's just, if they're there,
Merlin, can you-
they can ask a
can you
couple
be
questions
Mhm.
relevant to it.
Okay.
But I guess
I'll be here, I definitely wanna be here Thursday morning.
if the selectmen don't attend,
Mhm.
there's no sense in bringing these people in, because
Well,
they're the ones that have to,
we have to have it for our budget.
Yeah.
and if we can craft any budget that we want, but again, we go back to the question, is, are the selectmen involved, or are we gonna be bumping heads with the town administrator if we have differences in budget?
Well, I
Yeah.
think, you know something, I think we have a responsibility to the people of Wareham to, if need be, if we don't agree, we'll bring our own budget before.
So be a first.
No,
We've talked about it, and you know what, maybe we have to do it.
But
Well-
essentially, they're gonna come out of here, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
for the most part, yeah. To be honest with you, the town budget, Derek's cut it to the bone, I think.
Yeah, you got no capital expending?
No, he's got nothing.
No buses, no police cars,
No, I mean, you know,
But in essence, who are we kidding?
3 Vespas.
You run the police cruisers for another year,
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not,
they're full.
and then after that, they can join the school buses in the junkyard.
Yeah.
Well, it was a great plan, but it's one of those great plans that we start and we can't follow through because we run out of money. I mean, that's how the budget started all those years ago. It was a great plan, except they didn't follow through with the plan.
All right, so we've got the 17th and 18th, and I hope as many of us as possible, I do understand our working folks. it's gonna be difficult, but, I put the time aside, the 17th, I'm just trying to think, what does that fall in, is that?
Thursday, that's a Thursday and Friday.
You go see David
Okay, so
Sedaris.
it's,
David Sedaris.
okay, so it's, oh, it's next.
Well,
I just want to, I just wanna give the board a heads
It's
up.
next weekend.
I wanna be there, I really do, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna be
Humorous.
able to
Oh.
physically be there.
Thursday?
Well, I'm not sure, you know, I have my first chemo on the 15th.
I'll tell Jerry.
I don't know how that's gonna work.
Z.
You know?
Somebody will fill in for you.
And
So-
You take care of yourself first.
Yeah, so, you know, I have every intention of the world of
When you
being there,
go-
but I just don't know that.
Are they going to, I'm just gonna throw this out there,
Coming down.
Bob can put that on pause.
You want me to tell them?
No, I don't care. Anyway, I mean, are we gonna extend an invitation for the Board of Selectmen to attend these? That we are having, this FinCom is holding this session, and they are welcome to attend.
Yes,
I
think it's all set up.
already there.
I think it's already there too. I think they were, but I'm going to confirm it.
To Bonnie's point is, this is our meeting.
Yes,
That's
thank
her
you.
point, is that we are in control of this meeting.
Oh, this is
They're-
our
They're
meeting.
welcome, when they come for the budget, we'll call
Right.
them budget hearings. The hearing is in front of us, the Board of Selectmen are
I
welcome to.
believe it might
I,
listen to.
I think, I beg your pardon, I think that this was set up as a joint meeting between the selectmen and the finance committee to hear these various department heads, and I think
And
it
we
was
just did it
joint.
alone. There was a couple of selectmen
The
that
year
popped
before.
in and out. We've always done it alone.
Alone.
I just don't want
I-
a repeat of a couple of weeks ago with, oh, we have to change venues because we need to be live on TV. I can't take that.
No, we're not gonna, you're not the only one, I guess.
Thank you.
Okay, I just asked Kelly, hopefully this meeting's gonna be at the cafeteria downstairs. We're not gonna meet upstairs in the selectmen's room.
Thank you.
We are, if it's the board's pleasure to meet in a different area, that's fine with me, I agree, and, most of our members feel the same way, so we will do that, okay?
That's right.
We'll double check to see if this is set up, number one, where it is, and if the selectmen are on board, if they're being part of this, and if they're not included in this, I will send a formal invitation to them.
Okay.
But, I would like to,
I'm pretty sure they are.
I wouldn't hold that rest
Does
county
it-
on anything.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I mean, that was Derek's point.
exactly, exactly. And then at the selectmen's, when we had that
So
meeting,
noted.
that uncomfortable meeting upstairs, it was said, I think Selectman Titlebaum said, you know, why don't we just all meet together? You know, it makes more sense. So, we will confirm that, okay?
Thank you.
We will confirm that. All right, moving on. So anybody has any questions that they want to write down about this? We want to keep this as orderly as possible. I'm going to direct this, I don't want to mishmash at the meetings with Tom likes to jump in and Larry likes to jump in. We gotta do it orderly
I was
to get through it. Yes, go
I was
ahead.
going to ask and apologize for my absence and my delay here. I don't know if we've had any discussion already on the budget. Does it make sense, and I don't want to call us subcommittees or whatever, but I didn't know if there's anybody who wants to work, if we want to break it out so that we really focus. It's too much for me to look at all of this and try to be conversant on it in a week.
See,
So maybe if we break it up so that we really focus on certain budgets, or
my-
somebody tell me what to look at, I would feel better
My
about that.
suggestion would be, there's two budgets that really need to be looked at. And they're very large budgets, and one would be the water pollution control facility, and the other one would be the police department. And the other ones are all cut to the bone. I mean, the harbor master, he takes care of his own, the IT, I mean, I just don't, I mean, you can look through it and you go, I mean, we've all gone through it, I would imagine, gone through the budget. I don't see where they can cut anywhere else. But you've got these two very large budgets, being the water pollution, I'm sorry.
But are we going to be able to influence the water pollution? It's an enterprise fund that's being run. And realistically, he's responsible for his own sport. And even if you change his budget, it's not gonna change the town budget.
It's not an enterprise fund.
Yes, it
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Joel, let the Soyuz run the town show. We started, will you please?
What, Dave's point being that there's no adjustment to that budget that's going to make any difference in the
Difference,
overall
yeah.
budget, because it pays for
But it's
itself,
gonna
it
make,
negates
but it's gonna
itself.
make a difference to citizens and how much we're paying out of our pocket, to taxpayers, so,
Well, yes,
in the big
yes.
picture,
You
yeah,
have
it
to
does.
justify it, yeah.
Okay, and the other thing that we would be looking at that's, I'm kind of curious, how are we making out with the community development? I don't know. Nobody knows?
Was Cedar?
No, with the,
CPC.
that's what I meant. Thank you. Brain
We don't,
brain
because
cramp.
they meet the same nights we do, so we don't generally get a
So
chance.
CPC, we would like to know what,
What-
they've been, haven't been, have the funds, have they been able to balance back into everything that they were doing? You think they have?
I think they've made pretty good hit
Should I-
there in,
Yeah.
in
Okay.
the town's numbers and the CPC's numbers are,
Okay, all right.
Can I
in
make a
sync.
suggestion while you brought up CPC?
Yeah.
Because it always seems to be a struggle, that come into Springtown meeting, that, you either touch base with the chairman of CPC and just extend to her that, or him, or whoever it is,
It's Angela, and she's really
Okay.
good.
that they get in touch with us, at their earliest convenience
Okay,
for a meeting, for whatever they're planning to present to town meeting
on the
in the
CPC?
spring. Because it's always a last minute thing, whatever CPC does, we end up with a warrant and then we look at it saying, well, what is this project? We don't have a clue. And a week before town meeting, we're meeting with them because they meet on the same day that we do, okay? So we would certainly, as nicely as I can put it, we would certainly extend them an early invitation to come in and tell us all about the projects they plan on bringing to Springtown meeting, so that we have an early knowledge of what's going
Exactly.
on.
Is there somebody here who could convey that message, do you think?
Tom, would you like to volunteer?
Is Tom on the CPC?
my
Huh?
wife is.
That's why
Oh,
it is.
then you are.
You are missing
Okay.
something, yes.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Okay,
We would be at their disposal as early as they would like to present us
I
with
don't,
their
I don't think there's a
upcoming
lot coming
projects.
forward.
okay. Pillow talk
While
conversation.
we're talking about money, this $800,000 we're spending for the bump outs on, to extend the bump outs on the east end of Main Street. What control do we have over that? Is it?
No,
Nothing, it's a grant.
it's a grant. It's
But do we have to even spend it? I mean,
Yeah,
We don't
it's a
get it.
grant. You don't
We don't
get
get
the
it.
half of the grant.
You don't get
I don't care. I mean, the country's got $1 trillion in debt.
Where is Dick Paulson when
Don't
we talk
spend
about grants? Come on.
Yeah.
Tom, this is free money. You just don't understand, it's free money. Well, you just put in for these grants, the money comes, and it's like
If it's
miracle.
state or federal, it's free.
That's right. Not our money.
The problem that we're having with the bump outs is this. Now that they fixed Main Street, they'll probably spend another couple billion trying to fix the fix. Whether they have to go back behind the buildings and run and make the road go, because they basically reduced that to a one-way road.
Yes.
Wait till they have a great snowstorm.
We've got to have parallel parking trainings on
So,
Saturday.
so a few hundred million, and they'll be able to fix downtown.
They had to make some place to plant the pretty trees they got too, so, you know,
That's what those things sticking up are?
I think so.
Okay.
Trees?
No, I think
Right,
it's
in all fairness,
nice,
they've
and it
done a
looks
really
good.
nice
It's
job.
gonna be great,
I
don't knock it.
I think it looks
Let's
nice.
go.
Except I
Train
can't pull over
there,
in
we
front
need
of
to
the
pull
post
train
office
back
now,
there.
jump
We could
out and
start-
We
mail my
have to
bill.
boom it again.
Thank you.
Start a fire.
Okay,
I make Dave do it now.
11 o'clock at night, though, there's not a lot of traffic there.
No?
okay. And we've got the school, the public hearing for the school departments, Wednesday the 16th, 7 PM at the middle school. And our public hearing that we have to have according to the charter is gonna be Wednesday, January 30th. Usually nobody shows anyways, but
If I'm back in time.
where are you gonna be now?
Somewhere warm.
Florida, I have to go for Florida for a week, I mean,
Gee, I can make a living on YouTube, your travel plans, the two of you go. Okay.
for what
All right.
people like us, the airlines would be out of business.
We're doing our best for the economy.
That's right.
Does anyone have any new business they wanna bring along down here?
Dog licenses
We don't
are
have,
in.
what?
Dog licenses are in.
Oh, good. I can get mine.
Any liaison reports? Approval of, can I entertain a motion to approve the,
So moved.
Minutes of December the 19th, 2012.
exactly,
Second.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
All those,
Abstain.
okay. All right, the next meeting date and time we have here, it's going to be, I don't see any, does anyone see a need to meet,
Before the 16th, I don't.
yeah, I mean,
That's in a week.
yeah, I mean,
We got 3 meetings already next week, so.
so, let's, the 30th, yeah. Yeah, we have the FinCom public hearing on the 30th. So, everybody has all these dates down?
Yes, ma'am.
I gotta find a calendar.
All right, I guess,
Excuse me? We
yes.
just have Kelly refresh us as to backing up from spring town meeting. When is our budget? What are our deadlines?
That's what I just actually wrote that down. I'm
Okay.
gonna get that.
We'll get
I'm
that
gonna
for-
confirmed.
Confirmed for next week.
Okay.
We don't.
Not in the budget, we have no more money.
Barring no new business, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Oh, hold on, Stephen.
You can adjourn.
Okay.
Done.
I just wanna let you know, I'm gonna film the budget thing next Thursday and Friday.
Oh, good.
It
Okay.
will be presented at some point on our local ABC affiliate.
Good.
Is that still running?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you turn it off?
All right. Okay. Let's just,
When you adjourn it.
let's formally adjourn it. Okay. All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Not the school.
All opposed?